Hey guys, how are you? So welcome to S Kumar IS, and we were studying political science series, and we have studied till now the brief bird's eye view of Western political scholars, and we are studying Thomas Hobbes particularly. So today we will complete the remaining parts of Thomas Hobbes, and if you have not watched the earlier videos, please do watch, completely watch all of them. Otherwise, this video will make absolutely no sense for you. And if you find these videos useful, please like the videos, please share with others, and please subscribe our channel. So without much delay, आज की कथा को शुरू कर दें. Thomas Hobbes' theory of sovereignty, this was the remaining part. So the sovereignty is the most defining feature of modern nation state. Okay, sovereignty is the most defining feature of the modern state. That's why Thomas Hobbes is particularly emphasized so much in political science. Thomas Hobbes is said as the first modern thinker. First modern thinker. Why? The J. Baudin, please bear with the pronunciation because he's a French scholar, and I apologize. I really don't know all of them pronunciation, but because the spelling is right, I hope that uh, you will get the essence. So J. Baudin says that Machiavelli, he was just standing at the gate of modernity, but Thomas Hobbes jumped inside. Why so? Because Machiavelli gave partial theory of sovereignty. Why so? Because Machiavelli says that for secular matters, state is the supreme, and for religion, church is the supreme. But Thomas Hobbes does not do that. This is kind of medieval mentality, what Machiavelli says, that he sort of uh, makes difference between the two, the secular matters and the religious matters. But Thomas Hobbes very clearly says that state is the absolute, state is the leviathan, state is the ultimate authority, and state is the sovereign, and state has power to make the law for absolutely anything. Not only that, state also has power to punish. How these ideas of Thomas Hobbes are developed, we will study in today's theory of sovereignty. We already know them more or less because the state of nature, the nature of the man, everything was sort of developing the that particular situation in which Thomas Hobbes was existing. All those things make the pessimistic view of the human nature, as we already studied, and today in the same line we will see that how Thomas Hobbes gives his theory of sovereignty. Okay, so Thomas Hobbes was the first person to give the full theory of sovereignty, and Machiavelli just separated the state and religion. He gave the concept of nation state, but Machiavelli does not give the full sovereignty to the state, and that's why the scholar Brian Nelson says that Machiavelli was a transitional thinker. He was a modern. Machiavelli was transitional. Every thinker is child of his time, right? So as we can see that there are different sources of laws. For example, for religious laws, church is the authority. Customary laws, traditions. Natural laws, reason is the source. For positive law, the state is the source. Okay, so Thomas Hobbes particularly supports the positive law. He says that, like he does the comparative analysis between the positive and the negative laws. The positive laws are the laws made by the state, and the natural or the negative laws are just the outcome, the logical conclusion of the human reason. Okay, and we can very clearly see that we already studied this thing, that in state of nature, what Hobbes says that due to particle of motions, a man can understand only the particle of motion of his own mind or brain. Okay, that's why he want to be happy. Man is possessive. Man is want to get the maximum pleasure. So that's why man want to have maximum pleasure, and because he can see only particle of motion of his own, that's why he want to derive the maximum maximum pleasure for himself. That's why he's selfish by nature. And that's why Thomas Hobbes says that the natural laws are nothing but articles of peace and counsels of prudence. बोलते हैं ना ज्ञान है बस, ज्ञान के अलावा कुछ भी नहीं है, समथिंग लाइक दैट. दे आर जस्ट काउंसल्स ऑफ प्रूडेंस. वाई? बिकॉज मैन does not have enough reason. Okay, no need to explain. In fact, if you have doubt, please ask the questions. I will definitely explain it. Personally, I will answer your doubts. That because man does not have reason, man is selfish, man is, the state of nature is nasty, brutish, poor and short. Why? Because man does not have reason. Man wants to be happy himself. That's why he can harm others in the state of nature. And then reason only to fulfill desires and not to control, like he just want to fulfill his material desires, and that's why there is no peace and there is only chaos in the state of nature. So for that, to create system, we have to create system just to compel the man to follow certain order and bring certain out of state of nature, to bring him out of state of nature and to bring certain order in the society. We need the outside intervention. And to act reasonably, he says that fear of punishment is must. बोलते ना लातों की भूत बातों से नहीं मानते. So that sort of thinking Thomas Hobbes is keeping in his theory, particularly in theory of sovereignty. So he says that due to fear of punishment, the man will follow the law, and that's why positive laws are required. And if one does not follow that positive law, the man should be punished. Otherwise, no one will follow. अगर एक को आपने छूट दे दी, then no one will follow ultimately. So you have to punish them just to set the right precedent. That's what Thomas Hobbes says that. Now, interestingly, law means the punishment only in one sense. That law means the aim of the law is to establish the order, and if the order is not maintained, you must punish. Covenants of swords are nothing but words. Covenants without swords are nothing but words. This is a famous statement of Thomas Hobbes. Why? Because we can just give the example of so the state of international law. This can be a very good example of that. And Thomas Hobbes particularly compare positive and natural laws, that because man is poor in reason, that's why the positive law makes a lot of sense. Then Thomas Hobbes prefers order over liberty. Why? Due to Puritan revolution. We already explained that thing. Because he says that man is utilitarian. Utility is important. Libertarians like J.S. Mill, which like we just studied the summary, but in detail we'll study J.S. Mill little later. I hope we already studied J.S. Mill. No, we'll study it later. So Thomas Hobbes is utilitarian. He just takes the utility. So at the time of Puritan revolution, there was bloodshed. So in bloodshed, the most, the first thing is jaan bachao bhai. So Thomas Hobbes says that utility is to save the life. So the absolute state is must for preserving the life. That's why he gives theory of sovereignty. Okay. Libertarians like J.S. Mill says that liberty is important. Okay. So Hobbes, Bentham, these people, they say that utility is important. Any theory should have a utility at a particular time. And utility means it should give the net pleasure, it should enhance, it should maximize the pleasure of the person, because the person is utilitarian itself. Thomas Hobbes says that thing very, very clearly in his theory. And then Thomas Hobbes says that liberty can be sacrificed for security, and security by state, it's, and because security, because absolute power of the state ends the state of war, and that's why it ends the state of pain, it gives maximum pleasure, and that's why the order is superior to liberty. Then it is also said that liberty is where law is silent. Okay, this is also a famous statement of Thomas Hobbes. Liberty is where law is silent. Why? You are at liberty to do whatever you want only if there is no law made by state in that particular area. Then you are a free bird in that particular zone. भाई ये इतना बड़ा area है. Okay, here state has very clear laws, but this is the area where no law is there. Here you can do whatever you want to do, but here you cannot do. You have to follow the law, you have to obey. If you do not obey, then you will be punished, sir. Okay, that's why it is said liberty is where law is silent. Liberty is where law is silent. If law is not silent, there is no liberty. And so in this statement, if this is asked as a question, we just have to explain the theory of sovereignty of Thomas Hobbes and the concept of liberty. Now this is an interesting point, that negative liberty, it means a police state. That basically means conceptually that in a police state, state is considered as a necessary evil, that state is not required. State, the scholar does not want the state, but the point is the situation is such that state is a necessity. So that's why the state is called necessary evil. So the scholars who believe in this thought of line, they are called as supporting the negative liberty. Negative liberty always supports the police state, and the positive liberty, that supports welfare state, which came in the 1930s. It gives the concept of egalitarian state. State is a kind of nanny state. State supports the needs of the people. It provides the basic needs, amenities, everything. So that is called the positive state, right? So interestingly, Thomas Hobbes supports negative liberty but positive law. See, Hobbes supports, okay, this is an important concept, let me explain. Hobbes support negative liberty but positive law. How so? Negative liberty basically means that state is necessary evil and state is night watchman state. Okay, please remember these keywords. The negative liberty supports necessary evil concept and night watchman state concept. Okay, and why Hobbes supports these things? Because Hobbes is a scholar of bourgeois class. Okay, and why so? Because bourgeois want the maximum liberty. They want to do profit. They support free trade. They want very liberal policies against the feudalism. Bourgeois are against the feudalism. That is the concept of bourgeois. Okay, so if they are against feudalism, which is kind of hierarchical structure and which does not give you freedom, so the scholars of negative liberty, they are always supported, they are always supporting bourgeois class. They always want state as a night watchman state and necessary evil, but at the same time positive law means that the law made by the state. Okay, and negative law means the laws of state of nature. State of nature. So I hope that these both concepts are very clear and you will never mess up them. You will never be confused in both of them. that Hobbes is the scholar of negative liberty but positive law. Okay, and still if you have doubt, please ask the questions in the comment box. I will personally answer them. So we were here, yes. We completed the concept of liberty. Then Hobbes is a scholar of capitalist class. I already explained how, because he supports the negative liberty. Positive law, negative liberty. Negative liberty means state is a necessary evil. Because why? Because it reduces the profit, and Hobbes says that just to bear lesser pain to avoid the bigger. That's all. Otherwise, Hobbes does not want state, right? And yeah, this is also an interesting concept, that welfare state. Keynes brought it, and 1930s, concept of nanny states and all, all that. And negative state, that is kind of original model, because the state, like from where these scholars like Machiavelli is the scholar of transition, then Hobbes comes. So originally the concept of state developed just just to remove the hurdle of the bourgeois class. So that's why the original concept is negative state. Then positive state means welfare state, that comes later on. Then this is very clear that liberty is the absence of opposition or external impediments of motion. So that's quite similar statement. It can be explained that why liberty is only the absence of opposition, because if there is we can explain it in this sense that if there are lot of oppositions, there is not freedom. Like here he is saying that state is necessary evil because it reduces the profit. So liberty means absence of opposition, because if there are when Hobbes says that particle of motions are there, so if there is impediment, then there cannot be particle of motions, then there cannot be maximum pleasure out of that. So actually he wants that liberty is the absence of opposition, but it's kind of, you can say, contradiction or dichotomy. But actually if you understand the time of Thomas Hobbes, that's not a dichotomy, because Thomas Hobbes belongs to Puritan revolution, where securing life is the first and foremost requirement. So that's why it makes sense that ultimately he wants maximum freedom for the bourgeois class, but at the same time preservation of life is the first thing. Then let us see the assessment of Thomas Hobbes. Sabine calls Thomas Hobbes, Sabine calls him as greatest individualist. Okay, why he calls so? Just let us see. Individualisms are of two kinds: methodological and normative. Methodological individualism means taking individualistic nature of man to build their political philosophy. Thomas Hobbes do that very clearly. Machiavelli do that very clearly. They take nature of the man to build their theory. And normative individualism means to individualism as a norm, sort of desirable thing. Individualism is a desirable thing. No more like Plato, Aristotle, they just put individualism as a kind of sin, to have selfish tendency as a sin. But Hobbes just removes that. Hobbes says that individualism is not a sin. It removes a sense of guilt, and Hobbes was the first person to do so. Hobbes says that a man is selfish. Why? Because he can see the particle of motion of only his own brain and mind. Okay, so if he cannot see the particle of motion of other person, he will not think about him. So he wants maximum pleasure, and that's quite natural. Thomas Hobbes says that भाई तुम मजे करना चाहते हो, that's perfectly all right, because that's the nature. So you should not be guilty about that. So if we see Machiavelli, he was methodological individualistic person, because scholar, because he just takes the nature of man to explain his theory, but at the same time he does not remove the sin of individualism as a norm. But Hobbes is both methodological and normative individualistic scholar. So this is the, like, you can support Sabine's statement with these explanations. Then Macpherson says that Hobbes is individualist only in assumption, but absolutist in conclusion. So that's quite natural. Why he says that? Because Hobbes gives supreme power to the state, and that's why Thomas like Macpherson says that. But we can sort of support, or we can sort of defend Thomas Hobbes that though Hobbes creates absolute state, but he does not sacrifice individual for it. And purpose of creating state itself was the preservation of individual life. So that's why creating state was an, it was not an end in itself. It was just a mean to achieve an end, and the end was preservation of individual life. So we can defend Hobbes in that sense, that individual was the end and state is just a mean to an end. And state can't deprive a person from right to self preservation, and even Thomas Hobbes gives right to resist if the state deprives a man from right to life in an arbitrary manner. And then, like, it is also said, like, by Vaughan, that Leviathan is a useless as a book of politics and fruitless as a book of history. So, like, in the if this is asked as a question, more or less we just have to defend Thomas Hobbes, that Hobbes was one of the most logically consistent scholar, one of the most logically consistent scholar. That was the, due to the time of Puritan revolution, Thomas Hobbes gives that, kind of, he gives why he created Leviathan state. So we can just explain the brief, in brief, that why Leviathan was created in the way it was, and then we can sort of defend Thomas Hobbes with the, statement of Sabine and other scholars, if you know any. I will also mention, if we, solve the question answer, which I am planning to solve the previous year questions. So if we do that, I will give the name of more scholars and all. So in that way, we can say that it is not a book of politics, book of, like, useless as a book of politics and fruitless as a book of history. It is not like that. In fact, we can say the opposite, that Thomas